Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bear Bar Tales. It's good to see you. How are you? Feeling good? I like what you do with your hair. Is that new? It looks great. I'm just happy to see your face again. Today, I have brought you another story from the depths of Reddit's r/RPG horror stories. An unfortunate tale of love and love lost, of secrets and betrayal, and in the end, the loss of those closest. Does that all sound a bit dramatic? Well, yes. I am a bard, and when we're not sleeping with dragons, drama is kind of our thing, so sit back and relax while I regale you with the tale Bullied Out of D&D. About 6 months ago, I started playing a 5e game with people that I genuinely thought were my friends. It was a 7-person group, 6 players plus our DM, but for the sake of this story, only me, the party cleric, the DM, the warlock, the wizard, and the bard are relevant. I had met all these people in a West March style game over a year ago, with the exception of the bard. They had been in my own weekly game before I'd met the rest of them. We were playing over Discord/Roll20. During the character creation, the warlock and I had come up with a backstory that our characters had been friends before the events of the campaign and that we had been for a while. Things rapidly started to go downhill for me when we actually started playing. Basically, the first thing we learned about our party's wizard was, "Oh, I just hate clerics," and said wizard was immediately a smug dick towards my cleric for no other reason than they were a cleric. This was not something they had brought up in our session 0, but I figured, whatever, I guess they'll be hostile to me in the beginning, but we'll work it out eventually. Now this player had played several characters in other games I was a part of, all of which I enjoyed. But no matter what happened, this character just treated mine with this unpleasant, thinly veiled contempt. Now, knowing full well about all this, our warlock started this relationship with the wizard where it was obvious that the warlock had feelings for the wizard, but the wizard was just using them for sex. Now, it would be one thing if it were just a weird, toxic relationship that they wanted to RP, but it took over the entirety of their role-playing to the point where they'd get annoyed if I or the other members of our party tried to interact with their characters. Even me, the warlock's friend. The next happening was finding out that our warlock was cursed and had very good chance of dying if it was left unchecked, as their warlock would eventually become too strong for their body to handle. Now, here's where our DM comes into play. Being a resident holy person and friend to the warlock, I asked to do research on the curse during our downtime between missions. I spent weeks in-game doing this, and when it came to make a roll for it, I rolled a nat 20. Woohoo, go me! So our DM gave me a potion recipe that we knew for sure would be safe and would actually give them a damage immunity on top of stopping them from dying. But while this was happening, our DM had 2 other members of the party have alternate ways of dealing with this curse, without having to do research or put any effort in to know it. They just inherently got to know something for some reason, despite me having to spend my downtime I could have been using to do other things to get the same thing. Now, these different methods were definitely riskier, and there were a lot of unknowns, so when they asked me what they thought we should do, I suggested that we go with the method I had found. I didn't know it at the time, but the warlock had apparently took this as me hijacking their personal storyline, a stance that I still don't understand. Now, this is where the bard comes into the story. The bard started pulling people, and by people I mean just the wizard and the warlock, into an alternate voice chat to RP with them during the sessions. Now, doing this occasionally would have been fine, but these 3 got to the point where they were doing it several times in a session, and since our DM would go into that alternate voice chat with them, the rest of us were basically just waiting till they came back to do anything. On top of that, they would absolutely refuse to do anything worthwhile with their characters or the story unless they were in a voice chat that half the party wasn't in, eventually leading me to wonder what was even going on with the story because I was so far out of the loop. Now, all of this was frustrating and making me feel uncomfortable, but I figured these people were my friends, and if I just talked to them, we could get things worked out. I'll spare you the details, but after I tried to talk it out with them, I was basically told, nothing is going to change, get over it. From there, these 3 players would go out of their way to make sure I was excluded from as much of the events of the story as they could. I would continue expressing my discomfort, but they would just keep doubling down whenever I said anything and mock me for saying anything about it. After a while, my diplomatic expression of how I felt just turned into snarky comments because I didn't know what to do anymore. It all came to a head when in the space of 2 sessions, we saved our warlock from the curse, but during a climactic boss fight, our wizard had the boss under a hold spell while myself and 2 other characters that haven't been talked about were in melee range of said boss. Now, One of the boss's minions was right in the wizard's face, but had failed to do a single point of damage to said wizard. So with the boss up next in initiative after them, our wizard decided that he needed to drop concentration on the hold spell to use invisibility to get away from the creature that hadn't touched him. The boss then proceeded to use his super move and hit me and 2 other party members over half our health. Luckily, none of us died, but I was extremely upset with our wizard for doing something so selfish, and when confronted with what they did, all they could say was, "Yep, I did that." So I let my frustrations out on them, calling them out for being a consistently self-centered asshole of a character because that had been their entire character up to that point, and I had had it. As I spoke to people about it, I was shocked to hear them defend the wizard's actions. Of course, it was the warlock, the bard, and the DM that defended them. The wizard had eventually messaged me saying that they had intentionally done it for the express purpose to get my character hurt, if not killed, and unbelievably, they had still continued to defend the wizard after we had learned about this. Apparently, they had done it because they were annoyed about me expressing my frustrations with their character, even though they had said nothing about it prior. It was 0 to nuclear, "I'm going to try to get your character killed" option. Then, the very next session, the bard went behind our backs and promised to give an item to an NPC that was part of an organization that had sent an agent of theirs to a temple dedicated to my cleric's goddess, who had desecrated it. The item was taken off the body of that agent and was in our bag of holding, which I always had on me because I kept track of its contents out of character. Then, when I said I didn't want to give it to this NPC, the bard storms off and tells the NPC that they should just steal it from my cleric. When I called them out on how that's not acceptable behavior, they tried to claim that it was their responsibility to give back the item because they got the final hit on the agent that, I'm guessing it's supposed to be desecrated here, but it says dedicated, so I'm going to go with desecrated. They got the final hit on the agent that desecrated the temple. Then I told them that this reasoning is ridiculous because we all fought the dude and they just got pissed off at me. The very next day, our DM messages me that I was making people uncomfortable and that if I didn't change, that I would be kicked from the game. I was confused, but I wanted to make things work, so I offered to do things differently and even retire my character to play another one that could fit in with the group better. But when I asked the DM to promise me that if I did this for them, they would at least try to be less exclusionary to how they played the game, they freaked out and kicked me from the game anyway. As frustrated and angry as I was at this, I just decided to move on and learn from the experience. You think this is where it ends, right? Nope. Remember that West March style server I met the majority of these players on? Well, we were still a part of it, and 3 of us, including myself, were DMs over there. So for the next 2 months, I tried to do my own thing on the West March because I didn't want to think about what happened in that weekly game. While I wanted to still be welcoming and not hold a grudge towards them, they apparently didn't feel the same. They started unfriending me and started talking to other people that were part of this West March game, wildly exaggerating and lying about things I did, and started being super passive aggressive to the point that I was in a session with our wizard player and they just started talking halfway through a sentence every time I spoke. I asked to have a meeting to try and figure out what I needed to do to make things better between all of us, and the DM said, yes, we'll do that. But just 2 days later, the DM, who was also the head DM of the West March games, go figure, contacted me saying I should not take part in a session he's running because the wizard player and the warlock player were also signed up for it, and they were going to be uncomfortable if I was there. After a short discussion, I just agreed because I didn't want to stir the pot. Later that day, I realized I have no access to the Roll20 for the West March, and this DM tells me that instead of doing what they said and having a meeting with me, they had a discussion with the other leadership of the group and without my knowledge and convinced them to kick me. Then they wouldn't so much as answer my messages asking why they had done that. So there it is, that's my story. TLDR, my so-called friends made me really uncomfortable with how they played the game, refused to do anything that made me more comfortable, kicked me from the game, then lied and manipulated people into kicking me from an unrelated game too. And scene. I'd like to start this off with the standard warning that this is only one side of the story. With stories like this, you have to keep an open mind in that there are details maybe we're not seeing here. Details that either the OP omitted or that the OP just didn't know themselves. So with that out of the way, I can only comment on what's here. Firstly, I'd like to ask a question. When did nerds become so exclusionary? Like, you hear all these gatekeeping issues that people are having, and it's crazy to me. Like, maybe it's because I'm old enough to remember when nerds weren't cool. You know, I literally had people I talked to on a daily basis that I didn't even like, but because they were the only people I could talk to about nerdy things. Like, we used to get bullied, and now we're out here bullying other nerds. Like, that seems crazy to me. And I get it, like, it's cooler now, and there's more people, but we need to be more open as a community, all different nerd communities, whether it's D&D, Star Wars, anything. We need to chill. It's like we got in this position where we could do it, and we wanted to turn the tables or something. I don't know, but we need to chill and be more welcoming to other people and not be so kicking everyone out of everything. The next point is these people that use side channels for story. And I get it. Like there's times and places for it where you can use it really effectively. I've personally been a part of some games where I've seen it used really cool, but it has to be limited. When you're doing half the story, big parts of the story, and only half the party, or in this case, less than half or so, is actually a part of that, you're overusing it. It should be used to help add to the story where, one player or two players can bring their knowledge to the group, and it helps paint a better picture for everybody, instead of separating your group out and saying, well, these people have this part of the story, these people have the rest of the story, and they're not talking together. And it's just, if even one person feels left out of the story completely, you did something wrong. Now, another aspect here I'm not 100% sure about, because it's only showing it in game, is it kind of seems like these two, and again, this isn't something that was said overtly, but it's just kind of a takeaway. I'm guessing that these two that are the wizard and the warlock, maybe they're wanting to kind of flirt and stuff in real life, and they brought it into game. I'm really conflicted when stuff like this happens. If you want to do a little bit, have people like, oh yeah, hey, we kind of get together and have fun, great. But keep the rest of that flirting and stuff out of the game. The problem is it becomes a very personal, emotional thing for you. And so when it gets interrupted, it makes you aggressive towards it, right? I mean, that's just natural. You're sitting there trying to flirt. It's reflecting your real feelings, but you're still in a game with 6 people, 7 people include the DM. So, there's 6 other people at this game, or 5 if you count both of you together. Chill. Again, if you want to have your flirting and you want to have your relationship game, that's fine. But I go back to, let's not exclude everyone else. Let's not make it weird, because it doesn't matter who it is. It's weird for everyone else. You have 3rd, 4th, 5th wheels out there just watching this. It's like, I get it. If you guys want to do some role play, great. Take that out of game, make your own little role play, do your thing. But here in the game, just let that be, for everybody. And can we please learn to talk to each other? I feel like too many of these stories, we have this passive aggressive BS where we just, people cannot say how they feel. This guy, it sounds like, again, I can only come out what I see, sounds like he came out and tried to talk about it, and everyone else just wanted to be passive aggressive and, well, I'm going to kill your character, instead of just freaking talk about it. Like, we're adults. Like, I'm assuming these are adults, and even if they're teenagers, like, that's old enough. Y'all need to start growing up with it. Y'all need to just talk things through, just be blunt about it. This is how I feel. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but just talk things through, because you guys are supposed to be friends. It's sad to see this. You get these friends, and then this illusion of friendship wears off because someone's got to be a prick about it. That sucks. It sucks for anybody involved, but especially, this guy where he felt just omitted. Or this person. Now, again, it's only one side, so maybe the OP was doing something or saying something that we didn't see here. But in stories like this, when you see people saying, like, maybe I did do something wrong, maybe it was something me, I tend to at least give them a little more leniency as far as believing them. Because if you have the maturity to say, what, maybe I wasn't completely right, maybe I was wrong, that's at least a step. Even, people could be faking or whatever, but at least I can believe that you're trying here. And I can sympathize with these frustrations. This sucks. It sucks to feel like you're trying to cooperate, you're trying to make something good for everybody, and then you just feel like everyone's just like beating against you and working against you. Last thing, it just sucks when you try to bring other people into your issues. So I always think of like high school where, Becky doesn't like Susie, so Becky gets all the other girls to hate Susie too. That's how lame it is. It's just some high school garbage where if you don't like someone, that's fine. You don't have to like everybody. No, everyone has to like you. but you should keep that between yourselves. Now, if somebody does something really vile, like, hey, that guy's a murderer, yeah, that's fair. You should probably tell people that that's a murderer, you know? But if this is just one of those things where you guys didn't get along, just keep that between you. Let other people make up their own minds, you know, just stop trying to make, you know, posse up on people and oh, now we all hate you because I hate you, you know, and don't let other people talk you into hating people. Make your own decisions. If you're talking to Jeff and you're like, I kind of like Jeff, but your buddy over here is saying, oh, I hate Jeff. Well, if you like Jeff, then like him. Like you don't need to like and dislike all the same people that your friends do. You know, that's where you start isolating yourself. Like who you like, don't like who you don't like, but don't let other people decide for you and don't decide for other people. Finally, OP, I really hope you find a better group to play with. You know, I know these online groups, it sucks to lose it, but there's so many out there. You know, you'll find a group for you. Just, you know, I hope you find it. Keep an eye out. You know, you'll get to those people. I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by for today's tale. I'd also like your feedback on this video. I keep playing with formats between different videos, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? I've changed with backgrounds. I've changed music, not music. Right now I'm going through music issues as, you know, I've paid for rights, but then they're having issues applying it. So tell me with these videos, what's working, what's not working. You know, I'm always just trying to improve myself. So any feedback you have, let me know. I'd also love to hear what you think of this story. What would you have done differently? Should the OP have tried something different? Should they have tried another tactic? Or should they have just bounced out earlier? Let me know in the comments. If you have a story you'd like to be read on this channel, make sure to submit it either to the Discord or the subreddit. The links for both can be found below. But for now, this has been the Bear Bard, and I'll see you guys next time.